and welcome to another post-apocalyptic version of Nugget's Dungeon Terrain. This first part in a new series will focus on some of the techniques that are used to create the terrain. Coming up in a future episode, I'll be showing off some of the different individual tiles and explaining them in more detail. There are 14 tiles in total, and I've built all of them with the same proportions. A 4x4 inch grid surrounded by a 1 centimeter border. All of the bases are 1 centimeter thick, and all of the walls at their highest point are 3 centimeters, although some of the wall sections are destroyed or are replaced by other types of barriers. Here's a tile section that is going to be a corner piece. The 2-inch spaces on each of these sides is going to make the entryway, and the rest of it will be lined by a barrier. Most of the floor will be some kind of concrete effect. I'm going to add slight points of difference, like this manhole cover. The predominant floor covering will be concrete. This will be broken up by dents and cracks and things like this manhole cover. I'm using this for a dungeon crawler style zombie post-apocalyptic game. Some of the skills that the players have include being able to push zombies into pits and holes. So I'm going to be cutting into some of the tile sections to make these drop away points. This one will be a partially open entranceway to a cellar or a basement. And this one will be a sinkhole, or maybe a caved away section where there's an underground car park or a basement. A lot of the walls will be these 3 centimeter high panels. Some of the walls will be brick that's been rendered, some of the renders broken off and cracked away. Some of it will be exposed brick, and some of it will be cinder blocks. This section's going to have a bit more of a garden wall feel. It has the higher bricks at each end, but across the centre will be the mesh. In this case the mesh is some fly wire. I've bent over some of the parts so that it will look like zombies have pushed over the top, or it's broken off. The walls are just stuck on with tacky glue, but I am using plain dressmaker's pins to hold them in place. Some of the sections will be made with this corrugated card. And the sandbags for these sandbag barriers are made using polymer clay. When I'm adding something like these exposed support timbers, I'm sure to make sure that I don't go over 3 centimeters high. That way, when I'm packing the terrain together, none of the parts will stick out too high and get snapped off. This is a really loose garden mesh. I actually found it when I was digging up something in the garden and thought it might be useful for something just like this. In this section I'm just going to show off some of the other little bits of terrain that I added. It's certainly not all of them. If there's something that you see that I didn't include, please mention it in the comments and I can add an explanation to it when I cover my part 2 video. I'm going to add some textured gel to make it look like someone dug up a little bit of a barricade. To save some of the gel, I'm using some scrap foam as a base that I'm going to cover. The basement door is going to be some balsa wood. If I draw a line across the middle far enough, it'll be quite bendable, and then I'll be able to make the hatch partly open. I wanted to use the old car wreck that I'd made out of polymer clay in a previous episode. I ripped off the car wreck from the original base and kept it aside so that I could put it in this little section here. To break up a lot of the corners and make some of the rubble look a little bit more authentic, I just take these small stones, flood the area with them, and then cover them over generously with super glue. This section is going to be a small garden courtyard. The middle part is going to be a rotunda, a small raised area in the centre that would have been a feature of the garden. I'm only going to briefly cover the painting section. For the dried earth from this outlet pipe, I just used some agrellan earth from Citadel. The rust effects that you'll see on this pipe and lots of the other sections are made using 2 shades of patina paint created by Ranger. All of the ground sections and walls got an initial black ink wash. This is about 30% black ink and 70% water. I then went over the ground sections a couple more times and focused on the lower part of the wall section. While the ink was still wet, I took some of the water from where I washed my brushes that mostly had brown and splodged some of that in as well. In episode 172, I'm going to show each of the tile sections in more detail. So here's just an overview of how they connect together for now. Thank you to all the new subscribers and to all of those who have been with me for 3 years now. I hope that you can join me for the next episode. I'll see you then.